What's up, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to make a first-person camera with 2D sprites. And so today we're going to create a project in 5.4.4. We're just going to head over to games and then we'll just do a blank project. So I'll show you guys how to set up everything for the first time. Go ahead and find a directory for your project. I'm just going to call this tutorial or tut. And I just like to make the quality preset as scalable, just so it's not on maximum settings when you first launch it. And go ahead and push create. If your editor is really slow, just go ahead and go to Edit, Plugins, and then type in Tele, and then turn off Studio Telemetry. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to enable plugins. I'm just going to type in paper, check paperZD. So go ahead and push restart. And if you don't have paperZD, you can get it from FOB. So if you go to FOB on the Epic launcher, so when you're on FOB, you can go ahead and type in paperZD, and you can get it here. It's free. So you just click on paperZD. And you can just do download, and you can also add it to your library so that you can reuse it, and then you can go ahead and enable it in the actual plugins. Search for paperZD, just like that, and it'll be there for you. Sweet. So first thing I like to do, create my folders, so just BPs for blueprints, and then assets for like artwork, and then one more for levels. Go ahead and right click the content browser. By the way, if this is not here for you, you just do Control Spacebar, and then you can dock in layout, and it'll look like this. So yeah, you right click, and then push level, and then L_prototype. That's just what we'll call that, and we're just gonna open it up, and go to Edit, Project Settings, Maps and Modes. In here, Editor Startup Mode, we're gonna make it our level. So I just called it L_prototype, so just choose the one that you named it. And game default map, I just did L_prototype 2 just in case you want to test it after like a build or something. So yeah, now we have this open map. There's this really cool thing called the Environment Light Mixer window. There's this thing here called Environment Light Mixer. It makes setting up just like the skylight and everything super fast. So you go and click on that, and it will open up a little window. And then each of these buttons will add everything you need for the sky. And this is like a fun little quick tip for speedrunning setting up like a world. Another cool little tip, if you right click on the folder, you could set color, and I like to have things a little bit colored based on their icons. You don't have to do this, it's just like a fun little tip that I could add in here for you. And yeah, so you set the color, assets could be like pink, whatever. But yeah, now it's a little bit more appealing to the eyes, but you can play around with that as much as you like. But now we'll actually start creating the character. So go ahead and make a blueprint class, paper. So if you enabled paperZD, you'll see paperZD character. I'm gonna select it. So I'm gonna call it PBP for parent blueprint character. And how this structure works, you want it to be pretty modular. Basically how you want to structure your games is you want to have everything shared. So we have the parent blueprint. So in this we have the character, and the character will lead to the player, and then it'll also lead enemies or NPCs. They share a lot of variables, and this will make developing both sides a lot easier. So like even from the player, you can extend down. Let's say you're making an RPG game, and you're like, oh, let's just go D&D here, and let's say, oh, I want there to be classes, and it could be rogue, it could be knight, it could be barbarian. So it's basically the setup here, and then enemies or NPCs, this could tree into enemies, and then NPCs, and then this could even just tree into boss, grunt, easy kill type of thing. So you would have like base AI systems that are all linked to each other. So all you'd have to do once you get to this point, and when you get to this point, is just change some variables. So everything will already be set up for you. It makes things more modular this way. But in this video, we're not going to go that deep. If you want to learn more about this tree structure, I do have a course on Udemy. I am completely revamping it. It shows you how to make a RPG game beginning to end, including classes like the rogue, knight, and barbarian. And it goes over this tree structure and it sets everything up. But I am going to start adding whole courses for different 2D games, like 2D hybrids, platformers, and all that stuff. and it kind of dives really deep into Unreal and how to use it effectively. So yeah, if you're interested, go ahead and check that out. So we have the BB character, so we're gonna right click and do create child blueprint class. So I'm gonna call it BP player. So open up BP player, and really quick, we're going to create a folder. I like to call this core, so it holds like all the main mechanics into it. I'm gonna set its color to be black. So double click core, make a new blueprint class, and we're gonna do game mode base. So GM tut. You can call it whatever you like. I usually like to call it the name of the game or like the type of game. So like runner or like RPG or something, but you can call it whatever you like. Go back to the content drawer really quick, go to blueprint class, and then the last thing we're going to create is a player controller. So PC player. Go back to your GM tut, your game mode, and change the player controller class to PC player, and then go to default pawn class, BP player. And then you can compile, save, and then you can close it. We'll be done for now. So there's a couple different ways that you could set up. You could put the input in the controller, you could put the input in the player, but today I'm just going to show you how to do it in the player itself. So click on capsule component and then do add, and we're just going to add a spring arm. And then click on the spring arm, add one more time, and type in camera. So now for the spring arm, target arm length, and I'm just going to set it to something small like 10. From here, we're going to make the spring arm with a Z of 50, so that's about head height. And you can play around with this, whatever you feel that is appropriate for your game. And the last thing that we're going to do on the spring arm is use pawn control rotation. We're going to check that. So head over to the event graph. One cool little trick, I like to go to editor preferences, and then I like to type in color. And you don't have to do this, but it's just like a fun thing. But if you click on regular grid color, you can get rid of the grid lines. I personally am not a fan. So yeah, just a quick little, I think it looks really clean like this. But yeah, you can play with it however you like. You have it like purple even if you wanted. Come back here, we're gonna go to core. We're going to make a new folder, call it input. And then I like to, so right click, we're gonna create the movement for the character now. So right click, input, and input mapping context, and I'm just going to do IMC first person 2D, that's what we'll call it. So you can open that and go back to your prototype, go to input, right click, input action. I'd call it IA for input action, and I'm going to do move. And then I'm going to make another one, input action, IA jump. And then one more, input action, IA look. So on this IA look, we're going to change the value type, digital bool, to axis 2D. That's going to be your camera where you look around. Also on move, you're going to change the digital bool to axis 2D as well. Create a new mapping, do the plus, and then click jump. This is the easiest one to do. All that we have to do is just do spacebar on here. You don't have to do anything inside. And then add one more mapping, and we're going to call it IA look. Open this drop down, open this, and then for look, open this none here, and we're going to type in mouse XY 2D axis, like that. Go to the modifiers here, plus sign, and then we're going to do negate. Then one more, do IA move. This will be our movement. And this one will have a couple more steps in it, but we'll just take this one step at a time. So click on the keyboard and you can push W. And on this modifier, we're going to do swizzle input axis values, and then add another from this plus sign here, and click that. I'm going to do A for moving left. On the modifier here, we're going to do negate, add one more, click the keyboard and push S. On the S, we're going to have two modifiers. First one will be swizzle, second one will be negate, and then add one more, the last one, keyboard, push D. We don't have to put any sort of modifiers on it. That'll just be moving to the right. All right, so now we have input set up. So we can go ahead and close the input action on that. So all we can have open right now is just a BP player. I like to delete these just to kind of clean things up a little bit. Off begin play, just drag out and do cast to PC player. Or your player controller. So whatever you named your controller, that's what you cast it to. I'm just going to do get controller from here. By the way, if this is like crooked, you can do that and then push Q and it straightens everything up. It's just like a nice little tip there. So from here, as PC player, drag out from this blue dot here and do enhanced local player subsystem. Oh my god. And from here, you can do is valid and choose the one with the question mark. Drag out from the local player subsystem and do add mapping context. So after you add the mapping context, click IMC first person 2D. This is the IMC that we made earlier with all your input actions. And so you just push compile and save, create the actual inputs and what the movement is going to do. So you just do IA, look, we'll set up the mouse functions first. And from triggered, since this will be a constant value of your mouse always moving, it's not necessarily button presses, it's just like your axis pretty much. So add controller yaw, then add controller pitch. And from here, you're gonna click action value, and there's a couple different ways you could do it. I'm just gonna explain both of this. So if you right click, you do split struct pin, or a lot of people like to do break vector 2D. I personally prefer to split it, but you can do it either way, it doesn't matter. So you plug the X into the yaw, and then you plug the Y into the pitch. So now we're gonna make the movement. So IA, move. You're gonna choose this one here with the arrow. So from triggered, we're going to add movement input and input action. On this one, I'll show you, I'll do the split struct pin. So plug the X into the scale value, and we're going to get control rotation. And we're going to right click this purple tab and do split struct pin, and then get right vector, and it's going to be math vector get right vector. It's going to be this one here. And same thing, so right click split struct pin, and we're going to plug the X into the X and the Z into the Z. We're going to plug this yellow into the world direction. This is going to be the direction that you'll be walking, basically. So after add movement input, right click and do get control rotation. So pawn get control rotation, and then right click split struct pin, and from the Z get forward, right click just in the space, get forward vector, and get forward vector, right click interrupt, and only plug in the Z, and you can highlight both and push Q, and that straightens it up. And I'm going to do add movement input here, so plug this into here, and from the scale value, drag that into the Y, and if you double click, it'll create that for you. Okay, and then so plug in the yellow to the yellow, the world direction. So now, compile. So in here, before we push play, we're going to go to this box with the plus sign, and we're just going to do, actually, I'll show you the landscape. So we'll do selection mode landscape, and here we aren't really going to change anything. Maybe we could do like 31 by 31 just so it's not huge, but these are different settings that you could play around with, and I'm just going to do these settings. So 31 by 31, 8 by 8, 249 by 249. I'm just going to do create. Cool. I'm going to go back to selection mode here. So add here, and then so go to this box here with the plus sign, and without hovering over anything, I'm just going to do player start, and it's just going to be this flag. Or if you can't find it there, it's just basics player start. But you can, one cool thing is that you could just like start typing and it automatically searches for you. So yeah, I'm gonna reset this to the world origin, which is a little button, little arrow down here. I'm gonna raise this up. Before you push play, you go to edit, project settings, and then maps and modes. And the default game mode, I'm gonna call it GM TUD. This is the game mode that we created. So whatever you called it, that's what you'd pick. If you push play, you can walk around, you can look around, W goes forward, D goes right, S goes back, and A goes left. So here it is when you're done. So this is what it should look like. Look, add controller yaw, add controller pitch, and then on move, get control rotation, get right vector, hover, you can push C and move left, right. Now we're going to just add the jump really quick. So IA jump, and we're just going to choose the one with the arrow. Started, because this will be a button press that will just press once, and you don't want it to be repeating over and over again. So we're just going to drag off here, and we're just going to type in jump. Unreal has a already built-in function called jump. And then when it's canceled, stop jumping. And then we're also going to do the completed. Cool. So save all. And if you push play now, you can jump. So now we'll get to the 2D part of things. Cool. So this right here, we're gonna add in some assets. So we're just gonna double click asset folder. We're gonna add in some things. I am going to provide you guys art. If you are on my profile, you'll have access to this art. Cool, so I have this really simple artwork for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to file, export sprite sheet, and I'm going to show you how to do this in a JSON. So use JSON data, make this hash, but go ahead and choose your file, go to assets. When you have the folder, if you export as a JSON, it's super nice. You can just drag the JSON in, just like that, and it creates these textures for you. So it has the frames, it has the textures, and if you right click, you can create flipbooks. So now you have the cast animation, and then you have the idle. So this here cannot be parented out of the spring arm, so we're just gonna have to create something else for the spring arm. You do add and do flipbook. And if you already have it selected in your content browser, it'll pop up on its own, which is pretty cool. So go ahead and scale this down, maybe to there, maybe like 0.2. It's quite large. And we're gonna move it up and then push E and rotate it 90 degrees. You can set here and then move it a little bit to the side. And I'm gonna change this flipbook to the idle. Yeah, so basically if it's under the spring arm, it'll move with you. So you can like look around, your hand will always be there. I'm gonna give you guys fresh artwork for this. So on element 0, so this unlit sprite, mask unlit sprite material, click this and do mask lit sprite material. It'll be affected by lighting. So if I were to add a light, point light, you can see now that it's being affected by lighting. And if I were to move it back to the unlit sprite, you can see it doesn't change. So I could like move this around and light does not affect it. I personally like to have it lit, so then it reacts to different lighting around the game. So from here, we'll just create our first animation blueprint. So we'll go to BP. I'm going to create a new folder, call this player. I'm just going to right click and go to paperZD and do animation source. So AS player, and then right click, paperZD, Anim BP, and we're going to do AS player. And then we're going to do ABP player. Cool, so now we have these all ready to go. And you can add new on the AS, a new animation sequence, and I'm just going to push F2 and name this move. And this will be when you walk around. And we're going to add one more new animation sequence. I'm going to call this idle. So animation data, we're going to do idle, just like that. And then here, one more animation sequence. I'm going to do this cast. So this will be casting spells. And this will be the cast, just like that. And if you were to do like a top-down game, you'd do a multi-directional sequence, but since we're not, it's always going to be facing you. Your hands will always be in front of you. We're just going to keep it one direction. So on BP player, animation component, and an instance class, you're going to ABP player. On the render component reference, we're going to click that, and we're, instead of the sprite, we're going to do hand cast, or whatever your artwork is called. And that's going to be the one that we connected here. So it's going to be this under the spring arm. This one you cannot inherit, so if anything, you could use it for like legs or something. This is stationary, it cannot be put under the spring arm. So now we'll go over to the ABP. So event on init, this is going to be the first thing. By the way, if you don't know where we are, we're at ABP player. So if you double click that, you're here. Fun little fact, you can switch between animations and blueprints. And we are going to come down here on the left, lower left, and do create variable. We're going to push the plus sign, and we're going to do is moving. There's a lot of different ways that you can detect if the player is moving or not, but just for simplicity, we're just going to do IsMoving Boolean. Just a fun little tip: if you hold Alt and drag out, you set. If you hold Control and drag out, you get it. So we'll just do hold Alt, drag out, IsMoving. And we are going to put this on canceled or completed because it's going to be false. And then we're going to copy this, come to the end, paste, set it, and check this box here, IsMoving to true. So if we're moving, we're going to set this boolean to true. If we're not moving anymore, so if it cancel or completed, we're going to make it false. That's going to be the easiest way that we're just make that variable right now. So now let's go to the ABP player, and we're going to cast to BP player. And from the object, we're going to get paperZD or get paper character. So you're going to see the paperZD playback or paperZD tab here. We're going to get paper character, and then we're going to right click as BP player and then promote to variable. Compile and save. All right, now we're going to go to the animation graph. So you can find it over here, or it could be up here. Same thing. So from the result, pull out StateMachine. We're going to call this main and compile. We're going to double click on main, drag from the out, add a state, push F2 to rename, and we're going to call this idle. Or you can rename it up here, whichever you prefer. And then from this gray area, we're going to drag and make another animation state. Click on it, push F2 to rename, and we're going to call it walk. And we're going to drag it out from the gray here and drag it back into here. So there's transition back and forth. So from the idle, just double click, come in here, drag out, call idle. And then from the walk, drag out. I think I called it move. That's from here. So by the way, these things are from our animations here. So our idle, you can see our idle playing, and if you double click, you can see the move. I'm just going to have it cast. I'll have an actual artwork for you guys when I post this video, but that's where it's pulling this data from. Now we go to main and see this little circle here. It's a transition condition basically, or a rule. So if you double click it, this is idle to walk. And so all we're going to do is we're going to drag our player. We're going to get it. It is moving. It's the boolean that we just made. And if it's true, we're going to just add it here. Cool. And then so you can copy this, grab these two, copy, go back to main, go to this lower transition. And this is the walk to idle. So when you stop walking, you want it to stop playing the walking animation. From here, you get your IsMoving, you pasted it, not bool. So if this is false, then and in a result, no. File, so main. So now if you push play, if you move, you can see that there's an animation playing, and then when you stop, it goes back to idle. Heck yeah, guys. Obviously the hands need to be adjusted a little bit, but yep, that's basically how you do it. So this is how to make a first-person 2D game. I'm gonna make a whole course on this, going really deep into everything on Udemy, and I'll post that there. Right now, I actually do have a top-down 2D course for just making a simple RPG game. Feel free to check that out. It's on sale. I'll leave a link in the description for the sale price. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all of you. Have a good one.